Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll get started here. My name is Aaron Rosenblum. I am the Health and Science Librarian at the Portland Public Library, and happy to welcome you to tonight's Sustainability Series program. I'll be your host for Zoom purposes. If you have any technical issues or questions, try to send a message in the chat to Portland Public Library. I'll try to help you out. Tonight's program is part of our 6th year of our sustainability series that we co-host with the Southern Maine Conservation Collaborative. And we are, I was just gonna say our 6th season and maybe our 7th calendar year. I don't know. Welcome to, we're happy to be doing this in 2022. This season started already last fall. I hope you were with us for some of those programs as well. Before we go any further, I would like to offer PPL's land acknowledgement. Acknowledgement is a simple way of showing respect and a step toward correcting the stories and practices that erase Indigenous peoples' history and culture, and toward inviting and honoring the truth. Portland Public Library would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the occupied and unceded territory of the Wabanaki, the people of the place where the sun first looks our way, who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We extend our respect and gratitude to the many Indigenous people and their ancestors whose rich histories and vibrant communities include the Abenaki, Maliseet, Micmac, Passamaquoddy, and Penobscot nations, and all the Native communities who have lived in Chuabunkeg for over 3,000 generations in what is now called New England and the Canadian Maritimes. We thank them for their strength and resilience in protecting this land and aspire to uphold our responsibilities according to their example. So we'll have our presentation tonight, and after that, we'll have a Q&A, but you can drop your questions into the chat or the Q&A function on Zoom at any time throughout, and then at the end, we'll address as many of them as time will allow, and that's about all I have to say here at the top of the program. So I'm happy to hand it over to Jess Burton from the Southern Maine Conservation Collaborative to introduce our speaker.
Thanks, Aaron. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I am Jess Burton. I'm the director of the Southern Maine Conservation Collaborative. And we are just thrilled to be in partnership with the Portland Public Library for this series, 6 years. And we've had a remarkable number of speakers from so many different perspectives and expertise. I apologize if you hear my dog chewing on a bone in the background, but something has to keep her busy while I'm doing this. Tonight, we are super excited to have a return speaker. One of the great things about having this through the years, Katrina was the speaker in January 2020. So she was our last speaker before the shutdown. And we are so thrilled to have her back for her presentation. Katrina is an environmental educator at ecomaine, and she's been working there since August of 2016. She comes with 10 years of experience in various environmental educator roles across the country. At ecomaine, she is responsible for designing curricula, on-site tour programs, as well as all other education and outreach programming. The facilities engaged waste reduction among residents, schools, and businesses in ecomaine's 70+ member communities. We are really thrilled to have Katrina here to learn about where our trash and recycling goes and so much more, I know. So thank you, Katrina.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, about 2 years ago, I was standing in front of everyone at the Portland Public Library, and a lot has changed since then, but luckily not too much has changed in the recycling and trash world for ecomaine. I know there are stories out there of, oh, recycling's not happening anymore. No one's taking plastics anymore. This story, that story. But and some of that's true in the world. That is happening for sure. But it's really important to think about locally, what's happening in my town, in my state, in my area of the world. So let's learn about all that tonight. So ecomaine. Who are we? What do we do? We are a facility in Portland, Maine. You have certainly seen us if you were driving down 95. Unum is right here. The Portland Airport's just right over here. South Portland Mall is over to the right. So we're very close to just about everything down here. We own our facilities. We have a recycling facility up top. It's single sort, so your paper, plastic, metal, glass, and cardboard all goes in one bin, and we sort it for you. I will take you through the whole process top to bottom of how that works. We also own a waste to energy building, this guy right here. We'll learn about that in the third part of the presentation, about where your trash goes and what happens to it. Your trash is, for a short story, is burned for electricity. And we turn, in turn, that trash that is burned is now ash, which goes to our own landfill. That landfill is 3 miles away from the waste to energy building. So we're not trucking it dozens or hundreds or thousands of miles, which is great. We also have a food waste holding area within our waste to energy building. So we get food from, say, South Portland residents is picked up curbside through their city-run program, food waste program. We also get food waste from quite a few restaurants and schools. Schools have really kind of shut down their compost program during the times of COVID, but definitely before that, we got quite a bit of food, for example, from Manchester Elementary in Wyndham. So that food waste goes up to be anaerobically digested in Exeter, Maine, which is an incredibly cool process. And I'm happy to answer that. If anyone has questions about that or wants to know more about that, I'm happy to talk about that at the back end of the program. But what we're going to focus today is our single sort recycling facility and our waste to energy facility. Why do we really, care about ecomaine and what we do? So our mission statement is pretty cool. We're really focused on the comprehensive long-term solid waste solutions. So we're making sure that we're not just thinking about next year or 5 years down the road. We're thinking, 20, 50, 100 years in the future. ecomaine was actually started in the 70s because a couple towns came together and said, hey, we don't like just piling our trash high in the landfill. What can we do better? So it was made so that trash came to us and we were baling it. So squishing all the air out of it and then putting those giant bales in the landfill instead of just loosey-goosey with more space being taken up. 10 years of that happened. So we have actually 2 giant hills at the landfill. And then in 1988, we said, hey, we are going to do something better. We're going to do this thing called waste to energy. Europeans have been doing it for years, decades even, and it's an incredibly cool technology if you do it right. So again, that's taking trash and burning it for electricity. Yes, we're making pollution. Yes, I will talk about all that top to bottom in the second part or third part of our program. But we've been doing the waste to energy process since 1988. We've been recycling since 1990, and we've been doing single sort recycling since 2007. We actually changed our name from Regional Waste Systems to ecomaine in 2007 when we started the single sort recycling. So that's just a little bit of fun history. We're really focused on the environmentally responsible process of our facilities, making sure that we're managing and tracking and reporting all of our inputs and outputs as well. And we're really focused on raising public awareness, which just like this program that you're listening to tonight, we really try and get the information into your hands, into your heads, so that we all know what we need to do with our trash and recycling, and more importantly, why. Where are we? We have a lot of towns. We have about 70 towns right now, all the way up to Lemoyne in the Bar Harbor area, over to the highest is Fayette, Mount Vernon, over to Freiburg, and then down even over the coast or over the New Hampshire line. We've got 2 in New Hampshire. So we've got about 400,000, 450,000 folks that we take trash or recycling, or both trash and recycling from. So all these little white dots are towns that we take material from and process for. And I just like to start off with what's in your trash can. So what could be in your trash can? Well, we could have recycling in your trash can, but I hope not. I hope that's in your recycling bin. We could have food in your trash can. I hope not. I hope that's in the compost bin. And you could have useful things in your trash can. So, you didn't want that shirt anymore, but is it still good for someone else to wear? Your kids don't want those toys anymore. Do you have to throw them away, or can someone else use them? And so on. Even like an old lamp, is it repairable? Is it giveawayable? Can someone else enjoy that instead of you just chucking it? And I hope that your trash is in your trash and not in your recycling bin or your compost bin. So, do your kids wear diapers? That's trash. Do your pets have diabetes and they need a shot? That's trash. Do you have a dog that you pick up the food waste, the pet waste of? That's trash. Please only put those in the trash can. We have seen all those 3 things in the recycling bin. None of those things are recyclable, I'm sorry to say. There's also, our everyday trash, our chip bags, our gum. We've had shoes for 10 years and they've got holes in them and nobody else can wear them. There's going to be trash items that you and I make every day, which is okay, but always think, is it recyclable? Is it reusable? Is it compostable before it goes into that trash can? Because we got to think about the waste that we all create. Can I reduce? Can I reuse? Can I recycle? Can I compost anything before I put it into the trash, which is waste to energy? That's what we call your trash because it comes to the waste to energy building. From our facility, again, we burn the trash and turn it into ash, and that goes to the landfill. So there's been an estimated 85 to 90% of what we throw in the trash could have been reused or recycled or composted. The EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, has estimated that about 30 to 40% of everything in the landfill or the trash can is compostable. So think about this: your paper towels, your tissues, your tissue paper that got ripped from Christmas, the carrot tops, the apple cores, the potato peelings, all the things that you can't eat or don't eat. Your lettuce went bad, your sandwich fell on the floor, and you just don't want to eat it. There are things that we can compost that we don't want in your trash can. Because remember back to what we do with your trash, we burn it. That juicy, wet stuff in the trash can in the fire is not helpful for us. It's way better to put that compost, that food waste, to a better and higher use by composting it. And there's also that fun thing called anaerobic digestion. So reduce, reuse, recycle, and compost. It's underneath the thing, but it says, so please reduce, then reuse. So, can you bring your own shopping bags? I know we have our bag ban here in Maine now, which I love because I haven't used a plastic bag and I can't tell you how long. I actually steal them from my family in Texas when I go there because they make great trash cans. We have a cat and a dog. Can you bring your own water bottle? Can you bring your own cup? I went to Holy Donut, which, don't get me wrong, their peppermint donuts knocked me off my socks, or knocked me off my feet, but they didn't want to do a latte in my cup. So I said, okay, I don't need a latte, thanks. And I was in line and I was kind of bummed that I didn't get a coffee because I will only honestly get a coffee if I have my cup and I'm able to use that. And so luckily he came back over and he put on a glove and he's like, okay, I'll just, I'll do it just this once. And so I got my latte. But, can you put that kind of like soft rule on yourself that means you can't get a coffee or a water or a soda or whatever without your own container? That might be a little harsh, but it really does help cut down the amount of material that we're consuming and then tossing away every day. Can you bring your own lunch in your own reusable containers instead of getting, say, takeout? Or can you go to a takeout restaurant and say, I have my own container, can you put it in here? I've definitely done that with pai menmeyaki before. Every morning I have a smoothie in my reusable cup with my reusable straw, super easy to wash out and use again the next day. So, can you skip the straw and use your own? And then finally, this is actually really important. Can you buy fruits and vegetables at the grocery store that are not wrapped in plastic? During the start of the pandemic, when we didn't really know much about anything as far as how it was spread, etc., I definitely was guilty of buying the bags of apples instead of buying the apples and then putting them in my mesh or my cloth bag, because I was worried for sure about germs and stuff. But now we know more about the pandemic and all that. So I'm definitely okay with pulling my apples off the shelf, putting them in my bag, and then just washing them really well when I get home. So trying not to buy materials in excess plastic is incredibly helpful as far as reducing and reusing. Now, let's focus on recycling. What in the world can and should I recycle? We've got boxes of all kinds. It could be a box you got in the mail. It could be a shoe box, could be a pizza box. We do accept pizza boxes. We'll take your paper. We'll take your kind of egg cartons. We'll take your butter boxes. We'll take your junk mail, your magazines, even Post-its. For metal, we'll take all the things that we deem safe. So we don't want giant saw blades. We don't want explosive propane tanks. We don't want tiny nails. Those are no's. But we do want your soup cans, your hairspray, your spray paint, your room spray cans, the salsa jar lids, your olive jars, your soup cans, sorry, your aluminum foil, all these lovely things. Pie plates are great to recycle. We do live in Maine. We are a redeemable state. So if you want to redeem your Dr. Pepper and your juice and whatever, great. Please do that. That's great. Get your money back, redeem it up. But if you don't have the opportunity or you're just not able to redeem, you can also put it in the recycling bin and it just gets recycled, pretty much the same way. It just goes to our facility instead of like a clink facility. So that's great to recycle no matter how you do it. We also take your glass, anything from your jam jars, mayonnaise jars, spaghetti sauce jars, vanilla jars for baking, etc. And then we also want your plastics. Folks get really confused on plastics. You cannot recycle a plastic pen. I cannot recycle my plastic phone case. You cannot recycle your hair tie that has a little bit of plastic on it. We will accept rigid containers. Rigid containers means it has a shape. For example, a bag of chips. Yes, it contained chips. It is a container, but it's not rigid. Think of that chip bag. I can crush it in my hand. So that's a no. But these, say a raspberry container, raspberry box, you can squeeze that plastic. That's fine. That's got rigidity to it. So what we can accept is a rigid plastic container with a label 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 on it. So there's a little symbol, the recycling symbol. I'm sure we've all seen it once or twice. Number 1 through 7 are the things that we can accept, which is great. Just going through quickly the yeses and nos for just more visuals. This is the paper yeses. We'll take your shredded paper in a clear plastic bag. We'll take your soy sauce, your milk jugs, your lemonade containers, broth in a box, soup in a box. Those are not waxy. Those are called poly-coated, so they're safe to recycle. Empty them out, of course. We'll take your newspaper, your egg cartons, your boxes of honey, graham crackers, of noodles, all those things. And of course, corrugated cardboard too is great. And yes, pizza boxes. We do not want your wax paper, your soiled paper, so things that are dirty like this, or even say you had a hamburger on a paper plate and a lot of ketchup and mustard. That is called soiled paper. When the fibers are saturated, those are a no. We cannot take your paper towels, your tissue, or your toilet paper. Hopefully those are for obvious reasons. You could, if you wanted, recycle all the, or sorry, not recycle, but compost all these three. You don't compost toilet paper for obvious reasons, but all these other things, say the bacteria from your nose tissue, will be broken down in a industrial composting facility like Garbage to Garden. The metal yeses, again, are soup cans and hairspray and room spray, pie plates, even pots and pans are recyclable. Please, of course, see if you can reuse them, or of course, give them away for someone else to reuse. But if they're all scratched or broken or anything like that, pots and pans are recyclable, which is great. The metal nose include things like Freon containing items and long metals. We have, there's a couple of years ago, we actually got 2 long pipes, kind of like this, within 2 weeks of each other. And both of them, unfortunately, went unnoticed by the folks pulling the recycling out, or the trash out of the recycling. And they actually ripped our belt in half, and that was an instant $10,000 just out the window. So the wrong things in the recycling bin, actually, 1, cost us a lot of money sometimes, and 2, can be really dangerous for the humans that work there. So the right stuff in the recycling bin is incredibly important. The glass yeses include anything that's a container up to 5 gallons in size. Now, chances are you're not going to find a 5-gallon bucket of glass, but just saying that everything like that is fine. Things that we don't want, panes of glass, we don't want ceramics. We will take your tops though. Tops are totally fine. When it comes to the tops being on your glass jars, we will accept them either together or apart. And I'll show you later that the glass is actually smashed up and the metals are thrown in a bin by magnet. So it really doesn't matter if they're attached or separate, because they will get sorted either way. Again, the things that we don't want: light bulbs, mirrors, window glass, windshield glass from your car, or ceramics. The plastic yeses include things like raspberry containers, ketchup containers, laundry detergent containers, milk jugs, shampoo bottles, cheese containers, yogurt containers, etc. It's literally any container that's rigid, meaning I can't crush it in my hand like a chip bag, with a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 on it. We can accept the tops too. So if you keep the top on, great. If you happen to take that top off and you lose that top, 3 days later, you find the top again, that little top is not recyclable. It's only recyclable if it stays on the container, okay? So on plastic, keep plastic on plastic. The plastic rule of thumb again is that if it has a number 1 through 7 in chasing arrows, it's rigid and it's a container. Things that we don't want and can't take, we don't want your bags empty or full. We don't want anything squishy plastic, no bubble wrap, no styrofoam, no chip bags, etc. There's a really cool program called Plastic Film Recycling, where they take plastic films and they take it to Trex decking down in, it's either Virginia or West Virginia. But if we go back to this website really quick, plasticfilmrecycling.org is a great website. So for example, 04103 is where I live. Maybe you do too. You go down and I see that I can drop off my plastic films, my grocery bags, my produce bags, my bubble wrap, my air pockets. If I get wood pellets, my wood pellet bags, my Ziploc bags, my dry cleaning bags, my bread bags, all those flexible plastics can go to Shaw's, Hannaford, Kohl's, Walmart, and beyond. So there's even 5 pages here. So that's a great resource that you can use if you have those flimsy plastics. And again, it's bubble wrap, it's grocery bags, Ziploc bags, bread bags, and more. So check out that website if you're able to. Very cool process of turning plastic films into decking. We don't want that at our facilities. We can't take it because it gets stuck in our machines. This is not recyclable stuff: clothing, shoes, food, electronics, dangerous liquids, lithium-ion batteries, propane tanks of any kind, any size, batteries, chainsaws, sharps, and knives, all no, as well as tarps and what we call tanglers, ropes, garden hoses, cords, Christmas lights, even Christmas trees are a no. We get those, I don't know why. We've gotten guns and ammunition before, definitely a no. We've gotten chains that have really mucked things up in our facilities. And then fabrics, which are really dangerous. And we have gotten 2 snakes, one in 2009, one in 2011. They were both 5 or 6 foot boa constrictors. Real shame. They were both deceased. We did get a skunk once too that was very much alive. He must have just got, surprised in a dumpster once, but he made it through. We were able to capture him and put him safely out back in the wilderness. So good news there. So no snakes. Wish cycling is a process of throwing something questionable into the recycling bin and hoping that they will be recycled. Please don't do this. We get basketballs, we get wedding dresses, we get bicycles, we get kids' toys, we get bocce balls, we get dumbbells, we get toasters, we've gotten American dolls, we've gotten Ella Bean boots. You get the picture. This right here is about 3,000 pounds of junk. Right behind Charlie here is the waste to energy building. He's backing those bales into the waste to energy building where they're going to now be burned. But this is material that never should have entered the recycling building in the first place. This is 3,000 pounds of material that's been pulled by hand out of the recycling process because folks put the wrong stuff into the recycling bin. So this is not only a waste of time, but it's also a great waste of money. So please put the right stuff in the right bins. Now, this says up here, how does recycling work? Well, perhaps you live in South Portland, where there's an automatic truck that picks up the recycling bins and the trash bins automatically. Maybe you live over near Riverside, or you live in a town with a transfer station. You drive in, you drop off your recycling or trash, you drive away. This is my house in Portland. My daughter loves watching the trucks. Maybe you have folks that are picking up the containers, and then all those trucks, no matter how they get to us, come to ecomaine, right over by the Portland airport. And we process it. It's now our turn to take all that material and move it around like this. So this is our front loader in our tipping hall, and his or her job, whoever's on it that day, is to push it up onto the conveyor belt and then that moves it through our building. From this point to where it's on the conveyor belt to the very last thing that's sorted, it takes about 2 minutes or less to sort everything. It's going to take me a lot longer to talk about that. It's pretty fascinating stuff though. So once it goes up on that conveyor belt, it goes up a hill and then into this kind of trough area. I call this a waterfall of recycling, or a recycling fall. So this material goes up and over these rubber stars. We see the stars hopefully right here. There's 4 stars per axle and quite a few axles. And what's happening here is the large things are going up and over, up and over. So the large stuff is just surfing over the stars and falling down on the other side. The smaller things, the milk jugs, the paper, the metal cans, etc., literally anything except the big cardboard has already fallen through to go a different way. Now, sometimes we get big things like the trash bag you're going to see in 3, 2, 1. That's a no, thank you. Please do not put your trash in the recycling bin in any way, shape, or form. We don't want it. That trash bag could break open at any minute and spew dog poo or needles or leaves or anything all over the place and make a huge, scary mess for us. So cardboard again goes one way. Everything else goes a different way. And this is what we're seeing now. This is everything except the cardboard. There are small rubber stars about this large, 300 of them going up and up and up and up and over, making the paper fall up and over this kind of top area, and everything else falls through. Glass, metal, and plastic fall through to go on a different conveyor belt. So already within like 30 seconds or less, we are sorting out the cardboard and the paper from everything else just by using stars of different sizes. So you see things kind of popping like popcorn. And then down below, there's 2 levels of paper sorting area. So you really see here, the stuff is going up and over the hill there. And again, glass, metal, plastic falling down through to the bottom belt. But here's where the paper comes, takes a nice left turn and goes downstairs to be baled. And the last little part of this video is our stars with a whole bunch of junk in them. So what you should see is black with a little bit of brown. The stars are black and the axles are brown, but instead we see every color of the rainbow here. This is because we get the wrong stuff in the recycling bin. Back when our facilities were put together and the machines were installed and everything started to be sorted, we had a lot less contamination. Not a lot of contamination at all because there were less bags, there were less Christmas lights, there was less of a lot of different things. Now folks are very much wanting to get rid of it no matter what. And so we're getting a lot more junk or contamination in our recycling bins. We do not want this material, anything that's not recyclable, because it causes costly delays as well as a dangerous working environment. So these folks are in our stars. The machine is off and locked in place. And then they're in there with gloves and box cutters and anything else that they need in order to get the material out. We have everything from kind of a flannel looking shirt here to tinsel, to maybe some ribbons, to bags of all kinds. This looks like an electrical cord right here. This is more fabric down here. Sometimes we actually have fires in our facility too, because fabric, imagine that, rubbing against something else in the stars, and then there's a whole bunch of paper going up over it. And so there's actually above the paper sorting area, a very, very visible area on the ceiling where we had to completely replace the whole ceiling area when there was a fire that happened due to the wrong material in the recycling bin. So it's very easy to say, well, someone else will sort this for me, but it's actually very much better for everyone involved if we make sure that we are putting the right stuff in the right bin at home first. So after we take out the cardboard and the paper, we're taking out the metals, and we take this out in 2 different ways. So this says 2 types of metals are taken out with 2 different types of magnets here. This is taking out the ferrous metal. So what's happening here is there's a magnet above the belt, and it's grabbing metal and throwing it in a bin. Grab, throw all day long. That's all this piece is doing here. This mechanism is grabbing the ferrous material, which contains steel or tin, and throwing it in the bin. This is like your typical refrigerator magnet, except way bigger. The non-ferrous metals will not be attracted to this magnet. It just won't. Try and attach a refrigerator magnet to a piece of aluminum foil and it's not going to stick. So what we use is a reverse eddy current magnet. And this is actually repelling, pushing material away from it. If it's a non-ferrous item, it will be repelled by this magnet and it will be thrown up and over here, which is pretty cool. So 2 different types of magnets taking out 2 different types of metals. The next step is the glass. This says the glass is smashed up by metal stars. It's crushed up like this. And then it goes off to make new projects. So it could be a new countertop. It could fill in a new potholes on a potholey street in Portland or anywhere else. Or it could be under a new construction building or a new driveway or a new project like that. So it's reused. It's not actually recycled because there's no market for glass. No one's taking it and saying, oh, I'm going to make new glass from this old glass. It's just there's no market for it. Unfortunately, it's not economically feasible. So what it is, it's reused, which is also very good. So the last couple things to be taken out are plastics. The number 1 plastics are sorted with this optical sorter. Optical refers to eyes. And so you'll see things right here. Look for things flying upward, like this, like that. Everything else is falling down. So some things are being puffed up and over, everything else falls down and goes into this room here. And the difference is number 1, plastic is something chemically different from number 2, different from number 3, etc. So the machine, the optical sorter, is reading the chemical makeup of the plastics and it only is set to see number 1, whereas these folks here are manually removing the plastics. Number 2, natural, is here, things like your Oakhurst milk jugs, your apple cider jugs. Right here, this is number 2, colored plastic, things like your Hood milk jugs, they're white. Your laundry detergent jugs could be orange, could be purple, could be white too. And then down here, we've got number 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 being sorted. That's literally everything else, ketchup bottles, yogurt containers, etc. Here is the last place for items to be sorted in our whole facility. So from the front loader, pushing material up onto the conveyor belt to this gentleman right here, 2 minutes or less is how fast everything is sorted. So I told you it would take me longer to talk about it than it is to actually happen, and that's the process. Humans also sort out 100% of the trash. We don't have any machines to sort out trash. We'd have to have 1,000 machines to take out 1,000 different types of trash. So we have human hands. So again, the right stuff in the recycling bin before it leaves your house, please. Finally, items are baled and put onto a truck to turn into something new. If we just sorted everything and then held on to it, that would be considered hoarding, not recycling, right? So we we squish the material and then wrap it with wire. You'll see the lines on the bales here. And then we inspect it to make sure that it is safe and clean and good looking. And then we put it either on a truck to take off and turn into something new that day, or in a pile to be picked up later that day or the next day or so. So what Richard here is doing is he's turning it over and over to inspect it to make sure it's quality. We will not send out a load that is below our level of quality, because imagine a subpar load driving to wherever it needs to go, and then the folks inspecting it and saying, nope, this is not good enough. Then it gets turned around and sent back to us. That's all on our dime. So it behooves us to only send out the good stuff so that we, 1, save money, and 2, stuff actually gets recycled. So what Richard was doing there was he's pulling out some flimsy plastic, things that could have gone back to the grocery store, but didn't. So what he's doing right now is he's putting those bales onto the truck. And the cardboard is going to go to New York, Massachusetts, or Quebec. I actually have a map next up. But you may have seen in the background here, there's a big building. That's our trash building. And also you may have seen in the background, there's some bales. So again, bales are sitting outside if they're safe to do so, to wait for a truck. And by safe to do so, I mean, we don't want cardboard or paper outside, because if it rains or snows on it, that's ruining the product. Gets all gross and mushy. And things like your number 2 colored plastics are things like laundry jugs. We keep those inside because we don't want those to get rained on, because that will actually take the soap down to the stream, which is behind all these trees, which goes to the Stroudwater River, which goes to the ocean. So we have no desire to pollute the environment. So we are keeping the right things inside and letting okay, safe things to be outside. So where does our recycling go? Our glass stays right here in the Portland area to be reused as fill, potholes, under new construction buildings, but also again, as countertops, which is really cool. Our plastic stays in the US. All of our plastic from ecomaine has always stayed within the United States, which is really, really incredible. A lot of places in the country and the world, they go overseas, but US has great markets. We use those. Our metals go to Pennsylvania, a place called Pittsburgh Steel, where they are separately, ferrous and non-ferrous, melted down to create new things. Again, our cardboard goes to Quebec, Massachusetts, and New York to be pulped up. And the paper is the only thing that goes out of the country. Quebec, you know, obviously it's out of the country, but it's super duper close. But I mean by overseas, out of the country. Sometimes it goes to India, but also sometimes it goes to West Virginia and a couple other states, which is wonderful. We're still holding out hope for Rumford, Maine to turn into a recycled pulp facility because it would be incredible for us to be able to send our paper to Maine to be made into pulp to make new paper, which we would love. And of course, what can we turn things into if we put them in the correct bin? Everything from the playground at Willard Beach, hopefully you've been there, to toys made out of milk jugs, bags made out of recycled paper. Ella Bean has a cool line of water hog mats that are made out of recycled plastic. North Face has a cool line of shirts made out of recycled plastic. Liberty Bottle Works is a great company in the United States that uses metal to make new water bottles. A cool place in Oregon uses metal to create new bicycles. And then my all-time favorite thing to talk about is recycled paper, toilet paper. Think about it. Cut down a whole forest to make toilet paper or recycle paper to make toilet paper. It's a no-brainer. It's faster, easier, safer, better for the environment, better for water quality, better for the animals, better for literally everybody, cheaper too, to recycle paper into toilet paper instead of cutting down all the trees. Now, just a minute on food here. Food is not garbage. There are so many different options. Why in the world would we put this in the garbage can except for just being, for lack of a better word, lazy? We need to think about the food that we're using. You know, first, is it edible? If not, can we donate it? If not, can we, you know, maybe feed it to an animal? If not, can we compost it? Great options all around. You know, there's Garbage to Garden, there's We Compost It, a couple of really great places that compost for us as a community. Maybe you have a drop-off site around you. I've got a map to show you quite a few different places for free that you can drop it off. Or perhaps you have backyard composting or vermicomposting. You know, but there's, you know, great options even at your curb or your transfer station or somewhere nearby. Why does it matter? Why should we do this? Because about 40% of America's waste is actually food. And a couple of reasons why this really is bothersome. One, it's filling up the landfill. And two, in non-waste energy facilities or communities, like say Augusta, their trash goes to Hatch Hill. That's creating really toxic methane. At ecomaine, since we're burning material, your trash, there is no methane to speak of, but that juicy wet food is not helping our fire, which is not helping the burning process and creating more pollution there too. So all around, getting your food, no matter how you do it, out of the trash can is really, really helpful. And, you know, it's not all us, you know, it's not all us at home. You know, there's restaurants, there's packaging, there's washing, there's processing. So there's plenty of ways for food to get into the waste stream. But this is the one you and I at home can do something about. So in the Portland area, there are 5 free drop-off locations for your food waste. You can collect it on your countertop in a airtight bin. You can collect it in your freezer, whatever you want to do, even a pail outside. Just make sure it's got a good top on it so you don't attract squirrels or raccoons or something. But Riverside Recycling out here, we've got Boyd Street Community Garden by Douglas Street by the Portland Water District. We've got our West End one, we've got our East End one, and we've got our Franklin area one. So there are plenty of options. These are all on the Portland website, but I'm very happy to share my maps too. And this is South Portland location. So perhaps you live and work in South Portland or go nearby there. There's a drop-off place at the golf course near Skillen Elementary School. There's a transfer station on Highland Avenue. There's the high school parking lot, the upper parking lot on Highland Avenue, the Planning and Development Office, and also one set up behind the South Portland City Hall. So the bins at all these places look like this. You go over, you pop your food in there, and you walk away. That's it. You know, no commitment, no forms to fill out, no nothing. You just go, you drop off your compost and you're done. What happens to it from there? It goes to Benson Farm to be composted, which is awesome. Love it. What can you put in there? Well, since it's an industrial composting facility, you can put meats, bones, dairy, seafood, leftover food, eggshells, flowers, vegetables, coffee grounds, and beyond. You can even put, all dairy products, napkins, wooden stirrers, tea bags, etc., bread, rice, pasta. The things that they don't want: no cups and straws, no plastic bags, no pet waste, no plastic bottles, no packaging, no to-go containers, no hand wipes, cat litter, diapers, glass, etc. Deep breath, because whatever you don't reduce, reuse, recycle, or compost will end up right here. 8 seconds of burning. We've been burning since 1988. We're burning right this second, 24 hours a day, all night. So what's happening here really beyond the burning? This is our outside, this is our inside of our facility. The trucks come in, this giant door, and they're dumped off. So these trucks are coming from the streets of Portland, streets of South Portland, the transfer stations, and beyond. So we're getting trucks from all over. All of our towns come to us, whether it's consolidated or, even you could clean out your attic or your basement and drive in to our tipping hall and dump off. Maybe some of you haven't been here. So this is our facility. We take about 170,000 tons of trash per year, process it all. The process is the trash is made by you. It gets put on a truck and drives here. It gets dumped off. A claw picks it up and puts it into the fire. So there's like a what we call a hopper. I like to call it a slide that it drops down into the fire. It burns for 4 hours, and then that ash falls down and that cools off for 4 hours before the ash continues on a conveyor belt. It's shaken to make into a very nice thin layer before it goes to the truck. Right before it hits this truck, it actually goes underneath a giant magnet, just like the ferrous magnet, where all the ferrous metals are thrown into a bin. So think of, say, a box spring. You're probably not going to reach in and pull out all those springs and then put those in a metal bin at the recycling at a transfer station. It'd be cool if you did, but most of us are not going to do that. We're just going to say, oh, my box spring's no longer good, I'm going to throw it away. Those box spring metal springs would actually be thrown into a bin. So that's just an example of things that we can take out of the trash. Small propane tanks are also safe to put in your trash can, not your recycling bin, but a small propane tank can go in your trash can safely. And then that metals magnet will actually pull it out here, what we call post burn, after burning. This is what the ash looks like when it hits the truck. And I'll show you a picture or two of the landfill in a few minutes. So that's one thing we're making, ash. The next thing we're making is heat. So the fire is very hot. There's a wall here and a wall here containing that fire. This fire is huge. It's going over 4 floors of our building in a nice big diagonal area. And not only is there one boiler with fire in it, but there's 2. So we have 4 total walls. Those walls have pipes in them. So see the lines on the wall here, those pipes are filled with water. The water is heated up with the heat from the fire, which creates steam. The steam is then pushed through a steam turbine. That's not doing a whole lot. So what do? We connected a generator. So instead of just creating heat, we're creating steam that pushes a steam turbine generator. That powers our trash building, our recycling building, our 2 electric cars. We use about 10%, 15% max of that of that electricity. The rest we sell to the grid. So 85 to 90% of the electricity that we make goes to the grid, and that powers up to 15,000 homes. And again, that's on top of what we need to power this incredible facility, as well as the incredible recycling facility. So one thing we're making, ash. Second thing we're making, electricity. Final thing we're creating, pollution. When you burn a pile full of leaves, you're going to make pollution. But if you burn a pile full of trash, you're also going to make pollution. So how do we deal with this? In the fire, this is where the pollution is created. We want a complete burn, meaning top to bottom, everything is turned into ash instead of chunks left over. The complete burn actually is what helps reduce the amount of pollution on the front end. And then from there, we treat it 4 different ways. Number 1, we're removing the nitrogen oxides with something called urea. We spray in the urea to react with the nitrogen oxides, and it turns it from unsafe to okay to go outside. The gases continue. So everything else minus the nitrogen oxides go a very specific path to number 2. Number 2, we're removing the mercury and dioxins and even furans too. The way this works is we're spraying in activated carbon. The activated carbon is adsorbing, connecting to the mercury and dioxin and furans, so they can no longer be free and happy, but they're heavy and they're weighed down, and they are dropped down here. So they are no longer continuing out. They are heavy and fall down here. I'm going to come back to this in just a second. Gases continue, -1 and 2, to number 3. Acidic gases, say sulfuric acid, are sprayed with lime slurry, a basic compound. Think back to chemistry, acid plus base in the right amounts neutralizes. So again, we're not creating gold, but we are creating something from bad to okay and safe. So finally, we're coming to the electrostatic precipitator, my all-time favorite 2 words. The electrostatic precipitator is 6 curtains, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm talking giant, giant curtains, huge. And what they're doing is they're actually charged, and they're pulling particulates to them. So that charged curtain is actually drawing the particulates to it. When those curtains get very heavy, those curtains are wrapped on, hit, particulates fall down and come together with the mercury, dioxin, furans, which have been very heavy, and they are mixed with the ash and then go to the landfill, never to be seen or heard from again. All this material by this point is now chemically inert. There's nothing we can do with the ash because of the dangerous stuff in it, but it's safe in the ground with lots and lots of linings and layers, which I'll show you in a few minutes. So this is our trash room. Let's go back to our pictures and videos here. So again, our trucks drive in, they drop off the trash. All that trash is shoved into these doorways here, and then the claw picks it up from there. The claw goes down, picks it up, brings it up to the 6th floor, and it looks kind of like this. So you might recognize some purple bags here. It's Portland Trash Day on this video day. So the claw picks up a big old grab, ballpark 3,000 or 4,000 pounds per grab, depending on what's in it. And it brings it up to the 6th floor to put it into the hopper, which leads to the fire. We do have 2 claws. We have 2 fires. We have 2 pollution control systems and 1 stack where the air leaves. I did forget to mention on our map, there was a little number 5 icon. That's where we test the air to ensure the pollution levels are way low. And I'll show you pollution levels in a little bit. So here's our trash into the hopper, leads down to the fire. You might notice that there are a couple boxes here, cardboard boxes. At this point, no one's touching them. No one is pulling the cardboard out of the trash. No one's pulling the plastic out of the trash, etc. So you at home, my friends, have to put the right stuff in the right bin. We do at ecomaine, we can't do that for you. So put the right stuff in the right bin before it comes to us, please. So this is our trash turning into ash. This is trash. It does not look like trash. It looks like campfire ash, right? So this is your trash, and now it's reduced in size and volume by 90% at least. So it's going to take up a lot less space in the landfill, and there's going to be no pollution coming off of this. The pollution was created in the fire and then mitigated through those 4 steps and tested at the 5th step. Way down at the end of this building over here, this is where the metal is being removed by the giant magnet. This is what it looks like. And we're removing 12 tons or 24,000 pounds of metal over a 24-hour period. So every 24 hours, we're removing an incredible amount of metal to be recycled. This is our landfill / ash fill. Our ash is dumped and then squished down by our bulldozer. You'll see a very good lining down here at the bottom, but that's not the only lining between the earth and the ash. There's many, many, many layers, including HDPE, clay, sand, gravel, so many layers to make sure that we're keeping the environment safe underneath the landfill. We find that the landfill is very, very incredible because at this ash fill landfill, meaning we've already burned the trash, there's no methane being created. No methane is coming out of this. It's chemically inert. We are recovering the electricity because we are creating electricity from the fire. Instead of using fossil fuels, we are recovering or recycling the metal. Remember that giant magnet we just saw? And also we are avoiding emissions because we're traveling 3 miles from the waste to energy building to the landfill. Very interesting, very, very short amount of space. This is the alternative to waste to energy. There are fires that break out. It's smelly, it's loud, there's pests. There's something called leachate, which is dirty water getting down into the groundwater. Not a very safe or fun place. And plus this fills up a lot faster. For example, Augusta is going to be full in about 5 years. ecomaine is going to be full in about 2045. So we have, a lot longer, but we're still going to run out of space. So of course, reduce, reuse, recycle, and compost is helpful every single day. So we are making steam. This is just more pictures of what we're doing here. Our fire is heating up the water in the pipes, which is creating steam, which is running through that steam turbine generator to create electricity. And again, we are making enough to power our trash building, our recycling building, our electric cars, and eventually we're going to get electric ash hauling trucks. Would have had them already, but COVID kind of put a wrench in that. And then our remaining electricity is going to power up to 15,000 households. And again, we are creating pollution, but we make it go away. So we are mitigating it by removing it with urea, with carbon injection, with lime slurry, and using that electrostatic precipitator. This is the back of the building. In the fire over here, that's where the urea is injected to take out the nitrogen oxides. Then the gases go to what we call the scrubber. Down here at the bottom, the mercury and dioxins are taken out with the carbon. Up here, we're taking out the acidic gases with the lime. And then this is the electrostatic precipitator, and that is removing the particulates. And again, you'll see 1, 2, 1 box, 2 box. So 2 pollution control areas, ensuring that everything we can take out is taken out. And then everything is funneled through a pipe or an area where you can't see behind this tree to come out of our stack here. What comes out is either steam or just clean air. You're never going to see black smoke or gray smoke belching out of here because, again, of all the good removal that we're doing. And we are testing 24/7. We're incredibly committed to the environment, and that means that we're doing all we can to reduce what we are emitting. And this is a graph that was in our annual report recently. And all of our annual reports are online if you'd like to go check them out. If you go to ecomaine.org, about ecomaine, and then down at the bottom it says something about reports in the left side corner. But this is all of our pollutants that we are monitoring. So cadmium, dioxin-furan, ammonia, hydrogen chloride, lead, mercury, particulates, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, and the opacity, meaning, can I see through the air coming out? So for example, this is 100% of all the limits, and every single limit is different, which is why we have 100% instead of all the different limits of what's here. But for example, lead's limit right here is 25 pounds per year. In 2020, we emitted 8.8, which comes to around 35 pounds, or sorry, 35%, which is, you see this on the graph. But the great news is in 2021, we only emitted 2.9 pounds per year. And sorry, instead of last year here, that should have been 2020 instead of 2021. So anyway, we're like down here in 2021. So that's just showing you we're always under our limits. We really pride ourselves on making sure that we're doing above and beyond to make sure that our air is safe and good to be around. So I hope you learned a lot. If you need to nerd out a little bit more, ecomaine.org has a lot of really cool resources. We've got a waste library, waste resource library, everything from the Recyclopedia, where you can type in everything from propane tanks, I love filling things. Transfer stations are great to put them at. You can also put small propane tanks in the trash can. What can I do with my tree? Christmas tree. There are great places to drop it off. So etc. There's thousands of items that you can search on here to see where they go. There's also a really fun recycler game, Wicked Smart Recycler game. It's like a fun matching game. So you can play and you can like drop stuff. So that's really, really fun. There's materials that you can look up. This is my favorite just because it's really clean and easy to read, of yes material and no material. But then there's also the more specific ones. So it's got the list of the yeses and the nos on it, and even more information on the back. It even has the plasticfilmrecycling.org website there. So a lot of really great information on our site, you know, where you can put batteries. And then if you haven't had enough education, we've also got some virtual tours right here on our website, as well as lots of other educational webinars and information. So hope you check out some of that. But in summary, if we follow the waste hierarchy and reduce, reuse, recycle, and compost everything we can, we'll make less trash. We'll have many more resources to use in the future, and just a better and safer all-around environment. So with that, I will love your questions.
Thank you, Katrina. Let's see, we have a lot of questions. And if I think we can ask them in order. This one, I think you mentioned this, but I think the first question was, it might have been before you answered it, but just so we know. Hi, I wonder about a glass container that came with a lid, but if I put the lid, which is plastic, back on it, is that a problem? And this was different for glass than plastic, so I think it's worth reiterating.
Absolutely, great question. So your plastic lids, if it's on a glass container, that's going to be a trash item. I remember being shocked when I saw a spaghetti sauce jar that was plastic instead of glass with a metal top. And I thought, well, that's useless for me because I can't, you know, separate, or I can't recycle them both. So a glass jar with a plastic lid, unfortunately, that's going to be a trash item, the lid itself, because we can't recycle just a lid. If it was plastic on plastic, yes. If it's plastic on glass, unfortunately, the plastic lid is going to be a trash item. But metal lids are, yes, to go separate or together.
Awesome, thank you. And another question, how clean do the containers have to be? And my follow-up question to that is about cardboard pizza boxes. If there's like a ton of pizza, you know, grease that's gotten on the cardboard.
Yeah,
can you still
absolutely.
recycle that?
So pizza question first. So if you open up that pizza box and it's super duper duper greasy, what I do is I actually take scissors and I cut around, and I'm able to, you know, recycle the cleaner part. Your pizza box though, when you open it up and you've got a couple splotches here and there, that's fine. But again, if it's like covered and the fibers are just really wet from the grease, you know, cut out what you can, or just tear off the top and give us the top. And then you can compost the bottom. So drop it off for free or put it in your garbage to garden bin if you have one. But again, pizza boxes, great to recycle, just not if they're absolutely covered.
Great.
Oh, sorry. And then how clean? Sorry, how clean? So think about your mayonnaise jars or your peanut butter jars. That kind of stuff, we want you to take a spoon, a fork, a spatula, your dog, and get out as much as you're able to. But at no point do you have to put anything through the dishwasher or really scrub anything. We just need your material, your containers to be empty. So even like a box of soup, you know, you empty it out, shake as much as you can out in the pot, and then give it a quick rinse, and then pour that out. So nothing has to be clean, but it must be empty of contents.
Okay, and that, I guess that sort of answers the follow-up of what sort of an impact does unrinsed or unclean recyclables have on your facility?
Sure. So everything is washed, I like to say downstream. So not at our facility, but when it goes to the next place, everything is chipped up and washed. Now it needs, again, to be empty. And that means it's going to be mostly free of contents. If you have a moldy sauce, a jar of spaghetti sauce, and you leave this much spaghetti sauce in there with mold on it, that's going to be thrown away. If you have milk that's gone bad and you say, well, I don't want to deal with this, I don't want to smell it in my kitchen, and you put that in the recycling bin, that's either going to be thrown away or it's going to explode somewhere along the way and ruin something. So please don't put material in the recycling bin because it could cause a problem. It could make a huge mess, and it's just not something we want. So empty, but again, it doesn't have to be clean.
So I have wasted probably thousands of gallons of water, getting peanut butter out of a jar is so hard, and I feel such an accomplishment, like I'm doing the right thing. And now I'm relieved that I never have to bother
Tomorrow.
again. So
Tomorrow
I got
you
something
know.
out of this.
Yeah,
We have a
spatula.
question about those aerosol cans. I was surprised too to see that on the list. Their question is, I'm confused about aerosol cans, deodorant, whipped cream, cooking spray. I thought these were non-recyclable. Second part from the same person. Also, string is a no-no, right? I don't tie up my newspapers anymore. I put them in brown bags and use masking tape to seal the bag. So aerosol cans and best way to package newspapers.
All right, one, no tape. You can put it in a paper bag if you want to, but we don't want anything contained. Because think about the stars that need to push the paper up and over. A big bag of newspapers that are contained can't break open and come apart. So that hopefully it wouldn't be thrown out, but just no tape. Skip the tape altogether. Don't worry about it. Don't tie them up either. So no string. You know, a string is called a tangler because we don't want stuff to get tangled in the stars, but also again, the paper couldn't get sorted because if it was tied together. I'm completely blanking on the first part of the question. Oh, aerosol cans.
Aerosols.
Now, again, we need to make sure that you are living in an ecomaine community because say Biddeford, their stuff goes somewhere else. They might not accept aerosol cans, but ecomaine towns do. So Portland, South Portland, Gorham, Scarborough, Windham, Yarmouth, Freeport, Falmouth, we have 70 of them. So chances are you're in an ecomaine community, especially if you're in this presentation. So yes, ecomaine can accept your aerosol cans. We do want them to be empty. We don't want a Jackson Pollock situation happening in our baler when you only get, you give us a half full can of spray paint. We want you to eat up that whipped cream because it's delicious. If it's bad, put it in the compost bin or down the sink, So make sure everything is emptied out and then we can take it just fine in your recycling bin. No propane tanks though in your recycling bin. Very important. Those do cause fires. We don't want those. So propane tanks are safe in the trash can or get them refilled if they're large, but aerosol cans are safe for the recycling.
Awesome. There are so many questions. I just want to say, like,
Love
of
it.
course, I feel like in some ways this is like the Richard Scarry, what do people do?
Yeah.
All day, like all the little things that happen that we just don't know. And then we know, and we're like, oh my gosh, I have all these questions. So lots of questions. We may not get to them all, in which case, would it be okay if we send you a follow-up email or somehow like?
Yes, absolutely. I was going to say, if we don't get to all the questions, you can either call us 523-3141 or email info@ecomaine.org. We love questions. I personally love questions. I might be the only one in my department that really loves questions, but it's super fun, and if I don't know the answer, I will get it for you, which means I get to learn too. So let's keep going. And if we run out, email or call.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. Because we have a lot. And then I have a whole list of questions of my own.
Oh boy.
And I've seen this presentation before. So there you go. Okay, so here's a question I'm not exactly sure I understand, but you may understand this. How does ecomaine relate to Riverside? Does that stuff end up with you?
Yeah. So Riverside is a city-run, essentially transfer station on Riverside Street in Portland, out Forest Ave, if anyone, is curious what that is. Fun fact, you can take your Christmas tree there if you still have it and it will be mulched up. You can also drop it off at Payson Park and the East End and the West End. I think they also have areas, maybe not the West End. Either way, Riverside Recycling is what we call a transfer station because they accept things that then often go off to different places. Really the only thing that we accept from Riverside is recycling, because they don't accept trash at their transfer station. It's more like demo and metals and this and that. And it's not the type of metals that we can put through our facility, but they have these giant silver bullets, which are containers that you can put your recycling in. And we do take that stuff. So we do accept the recycling from there. So maybe that's close to you. Maybe you missed recycling day, etc. You drop off your recycling there. It comes to us just like the process you saw, but we don't take their say demo from your, bathroom project, all that stuff is not what we take.
And I sort of have a follow-up to that. If the towns that are, the service area or the clients of ecomaine, like Portland, does that mean that is all of the recycling from Riverside and is all of the trash from my street, is all of our trash and recycling in Portland going to your facility, or, I mean, most or all, or is it governed by how much capacity ecomaine has and the rest goes somewhere else to a regular landfill, or what have?
Sure. So we have something called flow control. So we have 20 towns that own us. Those 20 towns, including Portland, South Portland, Scarborough, etc., their trash has to come to us. So that's a good thing. That means their trash is getting made much smaller to put in the landfill. It's not getting trucked up to Augusta, up to Orono, to Juniper Ridge, etc. So that's a great thing. The recycling, most of it does come to us, but we can't control where the trucks go, unfortunately, unless it's like a city truck, like City of Portland, City of South Portland, City of Scarborough. Those trucks definitely come to us. But say Casella wants to take it up to Lewiston, we can't say you can't do that. So I would like to say that all the recycling comes to us, but unfortunately some of it doesn't. But a good amount of it does. Like I would say most of the recycling does.
Okay. And is that something that we could, is that something, if I felt like advocating, should I tell my city government, right? Like, I don't want Casella, who I know you contract with, to pick up my recycling to take it anywhere else. Is that a way that the community could advocate for better outcomes for their trash and recycling, to say, we want everything to go to ecomaine, so write that into your next contract with Casella or whatever?
I'm a strong advocate of voting with your dollar or voting with your voice. So for example, if you want something and you're not saying what you want to somebody, they don't know that you want it. So, if you want to make a change, or if you have an opinion about something, always share it with the folks who represent you. Absolutely.
Okay.
And even like voting with your dollar at the grocery store, buy things that are not wrapped in plastic versus, things that are loose. So making sure that you are making good choices with your voice and your dollar.
Sure. Well, I apologize for diverting from our many other questions from attendees. The next one of which is, will you recycle pans coated with Teflon, or a metal pan that has a plastic handle? So you did say pots and pans.
Yes and yes. Yes and yes. We will take all pots and pans. Say it has a Teflon or the handle. That stuff's actually going to get burned off when everything is melted down, because it's melted at such a high temperature. It's washed and then melted down. So it's not even a worry. If it's something that's serious, it's able to be removed too. But yes, pans.
That is awesome. Okay, now a question about rubber.
So
what about rubber recycling? Are there any facilities that take old rubber boots or leaky hot water bottles?
Not that I have ever heard of, unfortunately. I'm sorry.
I just want to say that question came from in my house.
Nice. Inside the house.
And now the person who asked it is laughing. I don't know if you can hear that. We have several leaky hot water bottles. They certainly had a good life.
There's patches that you could put on your sleeping pads for camping. I doubt that would work, but it's always worth a try, right?
Yep, we could try.
And also, it's always worth getting your boots resoled. If you have broken in the perfect pair of shoes and just the soles are no longer with you, definitely get them resoled, because reduce, reuse, right?
Definitely. So there is a question about what is accepted at the community gardens, because it used to be that there were limits on what food scraps you could put in. So you did mention what could be put in, but I'm pretty sure that some of the programs have changed, and that's why you can now do bones and dairy and stuff, right? So it's become a little more complex in terms of what they're doing with it, right?
Yeah, so with these bins, they go to an industrial composting facility, which means you could put fats, oils, cheeses, milk, bones, fish scales, lobster tails, you name it. If it was once alive or grew, even paper towels, that was once alive, it was a tree, it can go in the bins. What unfortunately, we've recently learned that biodegradable plastic, plant-based plastic, is no longer wanted in those bins, which really breaks my heart, because places like coffee shops are like, oh, we've got biodegradable plastic, but the composting companies, they just don't really want that stuff anymore. So just keep that in mind. If it's between bringing your own cup and getting that bioplastic, please always bring your own cup, your own container. That's just kind of new science that has come out that just, it's a real bummer. We've, created a problem by trying to solve a problem, but we didn't solve it. We just made another problem.
Well, that is super related to one of the questions that was just posted about this person. Jen works for an organization that does a lot of shipping of product, and they're currently using recyclable shipping, envelopes, and they're considering going to compostable stickers or labels. Sort of mix, I guess that would be mixing a variety of things. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading. It's a long one. Let me just read it. Currently, our mailers are recyclable, and we're considering using compostable stickers or labels on those mailers. Do compostable labels such as these contaminate the recyclability of the paper product?
I would say if it's just a label, it's not going to make any difference whatsoever. If you're curious about the compostability of something, then I would definitely call Garbage to Garden or We Compost It. They are a wealth of knowledge. Always make sure that if you're, say, pretend you have a coffee shop and you're like, oh, these cups look great, I'm going to buy them, but they say they're compostable. Always check with a facility where you want your stuff to go. Like, even if someone calls me and says, hey, I have a toothpaste company, I want to see if my tubes are recyclable. That's really, really nice, because then everybody's on the same page and nothing is wasted. And money's not wasted too. You make sure that you get the right things and the processors get the right things too. So as far as labels on a recyclable thing, if it's compostable, it's not going to mess up the recyclability of it, but it's also not going to do you much good because it's going to be recycled anyway. It's not going to be composted. So just think about that. Yeah.
And then that relates to this question about recycling cardboard.
Yep.
So on cardboard, there's plastic tape, and this person takes the tape off. Do they need to take the tape off?
You don't really need to take the tape or the labels off, because when everything is all pulped up, the tape and labels are actually skimmed away, because it floats of different density than the paper pulp and in the liquid's washing solution. So, if it's say a box, it's like completely taped up, which is more tape than box, that's probably not something we want, but chances are it's just normal taped. You can cut it open, get your stuff out, and then collapse it and then put that in the recycling bin. You do not need to remove the tape. If you want to go do it, go for it. You got some tough free time on your hands, but that's not something that we need you to do.
Sure. Just a couple more. We can do it.
We can do it.
There's a question about whether or not, there's a question from an educator about whether or not you present in schools, which I believe that you do. So if
Absolutely.
you wanted to
please
plug
email
your email address, etc.
Yeah. info@ecomaine.org. I could give you my personal address. It's venhuizen@ecomaine.org, but just info is so much easier to remember and write down. But yes, we absolutely do schools. Right now with COVID, we're doing, if it's safe to do so inside with spacing and all that, great. I've done a full school, or I guess a full grade, 4th grade presentation in the cafeteria with Crusher, the Maine Celtics mascot. So that's really fun. But we also do a whole lot of virtual stuff too. As for tours, we do tours if you'd like to come, but we're only doing 18 years and up, and masks are required. So just have that in mind. In a normal non-COVID time, we would do tours for 2nd or 3rd or 4th grade and up. So yes, yay schools, would love to work with you. Even if it's just a 5-minute video to share with your school, or if a 30-minute class or an hour-long class, we can relate it to chemistry, art, math, science, sustainability, whatever you want us to work in, we'll work in. So yes, schools, yay.
That's awesome. Awesome. Okay. here's a question. What is it about plastic lids that make them non-recyclable?
So if it's just the lid, say like you have a tub of yogurt or a tub of cream cheese, right? And you just take off the lid, that looks like a piece of paper. So our spinning stars will separate out that lid with the paper, and then it's a plastic piece in the paper bale, which is a no-no. If you keep that lid on, then it's going to get recycled with the plastic. So that's why it's not recyclable. It looks exactly and acts exactly like paper in our facilities, and paper and plastic are not the same thing. Yeah, great question though.
And then we have I just think just one more question from the chat. I have a question I'd love to cram in after that, but so this is one more about kind of how things are delivered to you. I often put cans inside of boxes, and then it says and flattened cardboard. Is it a problem and better for stuff to be loose? And I'm guessing yes from previous answers.
Yes, please make sure everything's loose. We don't want anything inside, anything else on the off chance that it doesn't open up. And then you've got a big box of cans in with the cardboard, and then you've got a whole bunch of metal in the cardboard bale, which is not okay. So anything you give us must be loose. I didn't mention in detail about the shredded paper. I did say it needs to be in a clear plastic bag. That's the only thing that we want contained in a clear plastic bag, because then we can see it, we can open it and put it with the paper. If it comes in loose, it's like confetti. It goes in the plastic, it goes in the glass, it goes in the metal, some goes in the paper, sure, but it's going everywhere else. So loose except for shredded paper in a clear plastic bag.
Thank you. I don't want to keep us too long, but I have this question I really want to ask. And Jess, I don't know if you have any, but I was wondering whether COVID has had an impact you all have observed on kind of recycling behavior. So I know that for a while, I know of workplaces, for instance, that were really good about actually composting in particular, that maybe stopped partially because staff weren't around, and so compost nobody was there to eat, but also nobody was there to take the compost to garbage to gardens or whatever it was. And I know that's kind of been slow to come back for some places. Like, we used to do compost, let's start doing that again. Can from where you stand or from where ecomaine stands, can you see any kind of trends of, did people just get exhausted with the world that we live in now and stopped bothering to recycle well, or are they sorting things worse or putting more plastic bags in that are clogging up the conveyor belts? And has it gotten better again? Maybe is there any connection between those things?
Yeah, so COVID definitely changed things. There was a lot more ordering from home, tons of boxes, real game changer. Composting was happening a lot in schools and beyond. And then when this hit, there was a lot of unknowns. We didn't know if it was able to be contracted through compost some way or some form. And so a lot of schools still don't have it back, even though we know that there's a really, 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 really small chance of getting it through just putting your compost in a bin and then someone else, putting it out on the curb for them to come pick it up, because it's been slow for sure. I think that a lot of places and people are overwhelmed, especially schools. I know that they are doing incredible work, but they're overwhelmed. So I think it's going to come back, but we all really need to recommit to it, which is a bummer. It was starting to be kind of a normal thing to reduce, reuse, recycle, and compost. And now it's kind of like we have to relearn, so getting back to it and being committed to it, it's going to happen again. But I think a lot of people are just really overwhelmed.
Thank you.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Well, I think we can close it up. There was one post in the chat. That's not a question. It's just a gratitude. This has been super duper valuable information. Thank you so much. So
glad.
Yeah, Katrina, you're a really great presenter. You make the information really clear and fun to listen to. So I just want to, be grateful too for you and your time with us tonight, giving us all this great information.
Absolutely. And please
yeah.
contact us, info@ecomaine.org. We're on social media. We have YouTube channel. We got cool videos on there. And of course, info@ecomaine.org if you want to reach out with either questions or you want to ask about another program. Maybe you have another group that you want me to present to, or schools or what have you.
Yeah.
Thank you for making it all so accessible. It's such a wonderful thing that ecomaine does.
No, we got to be transparent because you got to know what to do with what stuff, and you got to get the right answers, and it's good to do.
Right, it's habit, like it's, you know, habit forming and information. Yeah.
Exactly.
So thank you so much. And to everyone here, thank you for coming. We're having next month, we'll have Troy Moon, the sustainability director from Portland. It's a year anniversary since the One Climate contract or commitment was signed with South Portland. So he's going to talk about all the work that's been going on with South Portland. So please join us in 4 weeks. And thank you again, Katrina. And thanks everybody for coming. Thanks,
Have a great night, everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.